What is going on, you guys? My name is Cody Thixton, and this is the Interesting Podcast, coming to you guys on June 2nd, 2023 for episode 57, where today we have another very, very special guest. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Let's get right into this. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only hotshot Spencer Scott.
What's up, Cody? Thanks for having me on, man. That was quite an introduction.
That is awesome, man. Thank you so very much for joining us, man. I'm really excited.
Of course, thank you.
All right, man. Well, let's just jump right into it. For maybe the people that don't know you, maybe introduce your name and where you're from and how old you are.
Yeah, sure. I go by Hotshot Spencer Scott. I'm currently in Portland, Oregon. I've been wrestling for about a year and a half now, and I'm 24 years old.
That is crazy. That is really crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had heard that you had actually moved to Oregon.
Yep, that's correct. In 2019, I moved from New Hampshire, where I grew up my entire life, to Oregon, because I live with my current girlfriend, and we did long distance for a long time, and so I decided to just pack my things and move out here, man. It's worked out pretty well for me.
That is insane. So it actually started out as kind of like a relationship thing, and then you kind of looked into what Portland was like for the pro wrestling scene.
Yeah, it's really funny because I never envisioned myself leaving New Hampshire. Like if you've lived there, you kind of, unless you get out, you live there forever. Like you're a townie. And me and my girlfriend, her brother, we were really good friends growing up. We've been friends since we were kids. We went to the same school. He was a year younger than me, but we were friends. And then the summer before I went to college, he asked if I wanted to go swimming with him and his sister, and I was like, sure, whatever. At there and just kind of started talking, and we talked long distance while I was in college, and then I dropped out and I moved to Oregon. And yeah, once it took a long time. I never really thought about wrestling. I was always a fan. I've always been a fan, but I never thought that wrestling would be something I would actually do. And then after COVID, I had researched before COVID about wrestling schools, and I had found a wrestling school, but they closed down right when COVID happened. So I had to just wait. I kind of gave up on the dream a little bit. I was like, all right, well that was a fun idea, but that wasn't very realistic. And then Oregon Pro Wrestling School opened, and I joined a few months after they opened, and then the rest is history.
Yeah. So was there ever this little hesitancy, I guess you can say, when you were actually leaving New Hampshire and knowing that you wanted to come over here? Was there a little bit of I don't really know what to expect of the Oregon area?
A little bit. I had been out here once to visit her before I moved out here, so I could kind of get a feel of how it was out here. But no, not exactly. I had already kind of made a few friends through her out here, so it made it a little easier, and I had a job already lined up, so I kind of already knew what to expect a little bit. But in terms of leaving my family and leaving my friends, that was definitely hard.
Yeah. So how much has she kind of helped you out, and I guess kind of pushed you to kind of do what you want to do as far as a girlfriend and whatnot?
And she helps me a lot. This wrestling is really mentally difficult a lot of times, and it can be a lot. And sometimes you just kind of need that person to kind of bring you back down to earth. So she's been really, really supportive, and she's really supportive with me, going to all these shows and going to all these places. So I really couldn't ask for more from her.
That is freaking awesome. That is awesome. So I know I had kind of asked everybody about their first days in going to Oregon Pro Wrestling School. So can you kind of elaborate on maybe your first day?
Yeah, my first day I remember the day. It was August 31st. It was a few months after they had already opened, so they were already kind of starting to get into the swing of things. And I just remember on my way up, I was just so nervous, I was so nervous. I was worried about, I had been doing research for months and months and months about I'd been watching bumping videos and just I don't know if you ever heard of Santino Bros. They're a wrestling school down in California. But they used to make a lot of tutorial type of videos. So before I started wrestling, I watched a lot of those. So it did help a little bit when I went to train the first day.
Mhm.
I feel like I started picking it up pretty quickly because I've always been kind of like I've always used my body in weird ways. Like I used to do a lot of like parkour and like a lot of like acrobatic things when I was young, just because like I really like doing that. So a lot of it came like a little naturally. But I was definitely nervous for sure.
That is really interesting. Yeah, I don't really know how it would be like actually waking up just like I had previously said before, and like actually knowing that like okay, I'm gonna actually go out and do this and make this in a reality. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? So it's like how does it feel to like have come from New Hampshire and like this is your goal and being with your significant other and whatnot, and then being like, I've actually accomplished what I've come to Oregon to do.
it's crazy, man. Like sometimes it's difficult for me to kind of take a step back and really like reflect and like appreciate all the things I've actually like accomplished so far in my career because I'm
Mhm.
just like I'm really hard on myself. Like I always am like looking to like what's next and like what else can I accomplish. But yeah, it's so incredible, just like everything that's happened. Like none of this was supposed to happen, but here we are. Like we made it happen, and there's still a lot that I want to make happen. So it's
Yeah,
an exciting time.
that is freaking awesome, man. So like, when did you actually begin watching professional wrestling? Was there a specific time?
I can't remember like the first time I really watched wrestling. My first memory of wrestling is playing. It was on the. I think it was one of the original like SmackDown video games on like the PlayStation 2 or 1. With
Hmm.
my dad. That was my one of my first like real memories of wrestling. And then I think the first show that I remember like really watching, I had a DVD of No Mercy, 2003, I think. It was the one where Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker had a Hell in a Cell match, and The Undertaker had like a cast on. And one of my favorite matches ever was from that show that I still watch a lot. It was Ray and Edge versus Benoit and Kurt Angle in like a tag team match. That's still one of my favorite matches ever. But that's probably the first show I really remember seeing.
That's really crazy. So like, do you actually drive from like a lot of inspirations from different wrestlers? Like, do you have some specific wrestlers that you kind of want to carry in the ring?
Definitely. When I was a kid, my two favorites were The Undertaker and Jeff Hardy. And I can't really do a lot of what The Undertaker does just because like he's so big and like it's not like me. I take a lot from Jeff Hardy. He was definitely big for me. And since I've started wrestling, my taste has kind of changed a little bit. Like now I take the guy I take from the most has to be Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
Like everything he does was just so good and he was so entertaining and it was the little things that he did that really stuck out. But yeah, like Eddie Guerrero, Jeff Hardy, RVD, a lot of those guys, a lot of the really like acrobatic, exciting guys. Like that's the type of things I watch and take inspiration from.
Yeah, that is actually really cool because that was actually something I wanted to bring up to you is that you actually reminded me of Jeff Hardy because I've seen you go up and do the swanton and even in your highlights like you do like the whisper in the wind, and it's like how does it feel to like be on the top rope and be facing the opposite direction of your opponent but then have to jump back and just know your timing and where you're supposed to land something and know that that person's going to be there to actually catch you. Like that's got to be a crazy.
Hey, it's a gamble, man. You never know how you're gonna land or how someone might catch you or not catch you. Um,
Mhm.
I've been okay so far, but it's definitely just like once you're up there, like you don't want to stay up there for long because then you're just gonna start thinking it. So once you get up there, you just gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah, that is
Go for the
insane. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like have you I've noticed when I watch some of like vlogs about like people kind of like playing on the ropes. Like how much do you like go to training and like that's one thing that you
a
like
lot.
is that something that you like to do mostly is like play with the ropes and get some high flying moves down?
Not mostly, but there are definitely times where I've gone to the school just by myself and just kind of experimented and kind of just like went through my brain different ideas. And but yeah, like before practice or after practice, I'll like jump around and bounce around and kind of figure out like some creative things I can come up with.
Yeah, that is so interesting.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about OPWS is I'm guessing that like when you kind of sign up and like you're going through the initial day, they kind of sit everybody around in like kind of like a circle in like the ring and kind of introduce each other as like the trainers or what they expect or you know what I mean? So it's like what was that first conversation where everybody kind of had to sit down and talk about professional wrestling from the trainer's perspectives? Like what did they tell you?
Um, I don't know if there was a time where we have done this before, like sat in a circle and kind of just like discuss things and ask questions and things like that. Um, it's kind of a thing where like you kind of just got to go in there and feel it out.
Mhm.
Like I'm not saying they throw you like you go there for your first day and they just throw you into things like that's not like they obviously you gradually work your way into them, but like you kind of just watch what they do and you try to emulate it and they'll give you little critiques to help you get better. Um, but a lot of it early on that I can remember was like just etiquette, like how to carry yourself and how to like be professional and respectful of the business and just like not take it for granted. You know, like the training that we do, like just, we can't take it for granted because you don't know when you're never going to be able to train again, or you know whatever it is. So you just got to always be be grateful for the time that you're spending in there
Yeah.
to really like respect the ring. Like the ring is supposed to be a very sacred place, and not every like you're not supposed to. No one is just supposed to be going in there and just kind of making light of it. You know what I mean? Like so when you're in the ring, like you gotta respect the field you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about like that, which is really funny that you brought up because of like Gunther and WWE and how like that's like his main mantra is the fact that being in a professional wrestling ring is supposed to be sacred because it is like almost like a privilege to be able to wrestle,
It is.
and be in that line of like the greats like we have seen in pro wrestling history and know that you're doing exactly what they they were doing, so it's like I was going to ask you about, is there that sacred point where you can kind of differ when somebody is going to respect it and when they're not, and how it's like seeing that.
Um, I guess so. I agree with that statement that the ring should be sacred and it's not everyone should be able to get in a ring because you know just it's just a level of respect for wrestling that you have to have if you want to be in it. And a lot of a lot of people do, some people don't. You can sometimes tell the people that don't. But like I'm so new into wrestling. I don't want to be telling anybody how they should be doing anything.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I treat the ring as a sacred place to respect it and just to not abuse the power that I have of being able to be in a ring.
Yeah. Yeah. So, here's a question. So, like, have you ever had any hagglers in the audience? And before you answer, I want to tell you like a little story. So there was this event that I had gone to, and I had gone outside, and there was this guy who pulled up in this SUV. It was a pretty nice SUV, and I was like, "Hey, I like your car." And he was like pulling out his suitcases, and I was like, "Are you a professional wrestler?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to be, working the event." And I had kind of told him that there were some hagglers in the crowd. And he like looked at me and he's like, "So like where are they exactly?" And I'm like, "So if you're facing the entrance area, they're at the far left turnbuckle, like the first 3 seats right there, and they're just making shit of the show." You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And
They're trying to get themselves over.
yeah, yeah, and so he like was, pulling his suitcases in, and I was still standing there, and he's like, "Well, just don't tell anybody that me and you had talked." And when he had actually come out, he went up and just was just talking crap to him like over the turnbuckle. It was so awesome. But it's like, have you ever actually experienced like any hagglers in
I'm
the
sure,
crowd?
There has been. A lot of the time, I'm just so focused on what I'm doing in the ring that like sometimes I kind of tune out. It's probably not good because you really need to be in touch with the crowd and in tune with the crowd. But sometimes like you just gotta kind of focus on what the goal is. But like, yeah, we've had hagglers. I'm sure we have. You can you can choose to interact with them or not. I try not to if I can tell that like they're just trying to get like a reaction or like a laugh or like something like that. Like they're just trying to like draw attention to themselves and taking away from what's going on in the ring. So I kind of try to ignore that. But sometimes, I like to play with them. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing that I wanted to kinda ask, and one thing that is why I kinda brought that up is the only reason why it's always, like, bothered me, especially when, like, there are companies that have the training facilities, right? And then there are some people that maybe are still new to professional wrestling, and then you get those hagglers that will like chant like "You can't wrestle" or "Who are you?" and all of that, and it almost like probably makes some wrestlers like a little bit uncomfortable
For sure.
as they're trying to sit there and perform. And it's like, how can people sit there and not encourage, the wrestlers to do their best? And that's why I was just like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the truth is like if they pay for their ticket, they're entitled to do what they want at the show and say what they want within like a certain parameter, of okayness. Uh,
Mhm.
so they have the right to kind of heckle who they want, boo, cheer whoever they want. Like they have the right to do that. But when you start getting just personally like disrespectful, like there's certain lines that most people should know not to cross, and a lot of people don't have those lines.
Mhm.
Um, it's just a part of being in the ring and just being a performer, and just like that's just a reality you got to deal with sometimes. And as long as you know that like it's not going to get to you personally, like no
Mhm.
one can do anything that can really break you.
Yeah. Yeah, so how does that feel whenever you guys do get a pop and you guys are making your entrance or you're making an entrance, and like how does that feel like whenever your music hits and then boom, like you hear some people chanting and whatnot?
Incredible. It's one of the best feelings that I've ever experienced. It's one of the most surreal experiences I've ever felt, especially like a lot of times at POW. Like for some like the POW fans really like us. They've started to really kind of get behind us. So when we hit our entrance and we hit that pop, like oh, it's a rush, man, for sure. Before you start wrestling, like that's what you envision. Like you just envision getting the big pop, and like, I was always one that like um, I was never really the center of attention. So I never really I've always wanted to be an entertainer, but I've never really been in that role. So just the more that it's happened, the more it's just like it's really cool, man. It's a cool feeling.
So how was it performing as the Super Aces? Because I saw on online that you guys had actually were able to do it. So how was that going?
And it's gonna be a fun time. We are going to go crazy.
Oh yeah.
We've never done it yet. This is the first time we'll be the super races in an actual match, but we've been talking about this for months and months, and just for it to finally start to come to fruition and really happen, it's going to be fun. The Tau fans are going to be in for a good show.
That is freaking awesome, man. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So I know I had actually seen on kind of Jaden's podcast and whatnot that you had actually driven one time with Malcolm Flex or multiple times,
Yeah,
right?
I've definitely
Yeah.
done.
And so it's like, how is it like traveling on the road, even if it's going to a certain distance, and just having one of your trainers with you where you can like really pick apart your guys's or his mind? Because I bet you guys get into some really deep conversations when it comes to professional wrestling and how to coordinate it and whatnot.
Definitely, I love being on the road and just like being in the car with guys and just like talking and shooting the shit. Like it's so much fun. That's where you really kind of start to develop like good relationships and strong friendships. But it is really nice when you get to ride with someone that's a lot more experienced that can kind of give you a lot of good advice, and you ask questions, and just try to kind of pick their brain. Like I love riding with Flex. I love riding with Jaden. Yeah, he gives me a lot of great advice, and there's been countless others that I've rode with that have really given me a lot of good advice. So I love
Yeah.
it. It's one of the most fun parts of the job.
That is freaking awesome. Well, so check this out. So you know how in WWE and AEW, how sometimes you'll see these plants in the crowd. Like if they really, really want a return to mean something, they'll put a plant in the front row and have them freak out so that then the camera can pinpoint, towards them and make it seem like a bigger deal.
That's
So how does it
a
how
little
does
inside
it
scoop. I didn't know that.
yeah. So like how does it I guess feel to I guess think of how genuine the indie fans can be, where like we actually take pride in the fact that like everybody in Oregon, it's like our pro wrestling scene, and it's just like there's just this home pride that goes along with it, and I feel like that kind of emulates when fans react to you guys actually performing and getting excited and wanting to see you guys.
Definitely, definitely. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
Um, so like how is it like when there are plants like in WWE where like they don't get like as big of a reaction, or they don't pinpoint towards like the fans that are really reacting, but every single time that you guys see fans, like they're actually really excited because of the fact that you guys are genuine in around the local area, and
Right.
it's just a different feeling. So how is that as a performer?
It's the best feeling. Like the indie shows, especially around here, but in all of indie wrestling, they're very personal and they're very intimate because you're right up there. You're right, like the person that you're seeing on TV. Sometimes like you kind of it doesn't mean as much to you because they're not like right in front of you. Sometimes you're like, is like they're a real person, right? But it's like, oh, they're not real. They're on TV. But in these local indie shows, like they're right there. They're very tangible to you. So you can just reach out and slap their hand, or like talk to them, engage with them, and they're like a real person. So it's very intimate. And I really it some a lot of us get imposter syndrome, like like, oh, I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve this, that, whatever. And then you see a fan that's like very excited to see you. Like it's like a very what's the word? Like it's very good feedback that shows that like you are doing something that is connecting. So it's a great feeling.
That is awesome. Yeah, I know on your Twitter you have this photo that is like promoting yourself and saying that you're not only available domestic but international.
Definitely.
So like where would be like one place that you would mostly want to go to and wrestle?
Well, I've already been to Canada. I love going to Canada. I would go to Canada all the time. They're awesome up there. But I definitely want to wrestle in the UK at some point. I definitely want to wrestle in the UK. Definitely, like I don't know if they do they have wrestling. They definitely have wrestling in Ireland. I'm trying to go to Ireland um, but yeah, the UK, Australia, definitely Japan. I would definitely love to wrestle in Japan someday. But we'll see what happens. I'm just gonna let everything kind of fall into place and let the opportunities come as they may.
Yeah. Yeah. So how is that like coordinating as a professional wrestler and having to kind of put yourself out there towards the other companies, even if it's just around the United States? Like, how hard is that as a pro wrestler to promote yourself?
I wouldn't. It's not hard. It's easy to promote yourself if like if you understand like business and like how to market things and like just kind of understand like that type of area. But I would say like it's definitely scary. It is very scary because you're being very vulnerable. Like you're putting yourself out there. You're pitching yourself, and a lot of times you might face rejection, and but you just got to keep trying. So it's definitely the hardest part is having the confidence to just like send the message.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that would be kind of like what Max Burnside said, where it's almost feels like you're one of those little teenage kids like asking for like a sponsorship, and it's just getting over that hurdle
Oh,
of
definitely, 100%.
yeah, yeah. That is so interesting.
And a lot of the times, the people that message you back are like very nice, and it's just like, okay, I really had nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, that is cool. So let's talk about Blair Alley a little bit in Eugene. So how is it like performing outside? Because I know you also participated in the 2022 PDX.
The Hot Sauce Festival.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
and that was also outside. So how much different is it to be in a building as compared to working outside?
I really like it. It's fun being outside, and like it's a different change. But for someone like me who's so pale skinned, sometimes being out in the sun can really not be good for me. Like we wrestled in Winnemucca, Nevada, a weekend ago, and that was an outside show. And throughout the day, I was walking around with like a cutoff shirt, and it comes time to wrestle, and I didn't realize I had a crazy farmer's tan, and it just looks ridiculous. My chest is completely pale, and my arm. So that part kind of sucks, but like it, I do enjoy wrestling outside. It's a definitely a different feel. Um, but it's fun. I love being outside, so I'll wrestle anywhere. I'll inside, outside, whatever. I
That
love it.
is that is so cool. Like I've always wanted to actually go to an outside performance and whatnot and see it.
They're
So
they're a lot more fun because a lot of times the outside shows aren't necessarily like just a specific like wrestling show. Like a lot of times it's like for a baseball game or for a street fair or something like that. So a lot of the fans that go there aren't necessarily wrestling fans. So you can like it's not as much pressure because they just want to be entertained, and
mhm,
they're not so focused on like the intricacies of the holds and the moves and like they just want to be entertained. So sometimes you can kind of have a lot more fun and just have a lot less pressure.
that is really awesome. Yeah, so was there a hot sauce that you had actually tried at the hot sauce festival that was really hot?
I was a little nervous to try the hot sauces, especially before I wrestled, because I didn't want to feel sick. But there was Bobby's boat sauce. Me and King Naja did a chop off with hot sauce. We put it in our hands and just kept chopping each other. So I got a little taste from the, but it was yeah. Bobby's shout out Bobby's boat sauce.
That is awesome. So you had actually just brought up, that you don't want to feel sick before you go into a match, and that was something that me and Zay had talked about, was actually eating before a match, and he said that, like, that was something that you really can't do. So, like, why is that exactly?
Um, well, first of all, like I'm usually nervous before a show. Like no matter how many times you do a show, like you're gonna be nervous,
Mhm.
especially if you care. Um, and like I have a strong stomach, so like I not a picky eater. I'll eat like anything. But I don't like the feeling of having like a bunch of food in my stuff. My biggest fear is throwing up. I if like I That's my biggest fear. Because like when I started training, there were times where I did throw up because I was just so like blown up, you just kind of have to like build that strength. Um, but I'm just like I can't like Zay eats like pizza and like he'll eat whatever before a show. Like I can't do that. Like I'm too. I get like bloated and I get like really out of breath and just feel like crap. So I like to feel as empty as possible.
Interesting. Yeah, I could definitely see with you, like, jumping around and everything, how, like, if you mix things up, you don't wanna end up hurling,
Yeah, because
and
I'm around jumping, like kind of flipping around. So like it can get a little nauseating. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, I actually had a really interesting question. So, is there ever a point in which you feel like maybe you would potentially turn heel?
I've gotten this question a lot. Right now, no, I'm just focused on the goal right now, and it's funny that like people like think that. They're like, oh, you're gonna turn heel eventually. I don't know what the future is gonna hold. But it's very funny that like people like see me and Zay, and like, because like within a tag team, like you always are like, okay, like who may like turn, or like who may, whatever.
Mhm.
um have I thought about what it would be like if I was a solo heel? Like definitely. I don't know if that'll ever happen. Right now I'm just focused on the goal, and I don't want to throw anything out there like I'm about to win. We're good, we're solid.
Yeah.
But maybe someday. Maybe someday. I definitely have a lot of ideas, and I have a lot of things I want to try. Um, so maybe down the road I'll have a change of heart. But for now I'm focused on the goal, and that's to win some championships. Was a
That is freaking awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I know Zay had actually brought up that like you were really an intricate part of his career. So, like, how was it for you to meet somebody like that and be in a tag team with?
It's crazy. Like he said, like we didn't envision being a tag team. Like he said, we're very opposite, and it's very true. He's kind of the bubbly, like fun guy, and I'm like kind of the quiet. Like some people might think I'm an asshole, but I'm just like that. That's the difference of us. But man, wrestling has just like made us become like the best of friends. Like he's one of my best friends. Like I talk to him almost like every day, and having someone like that in my life is very important, because he holds me accountable a lot, and he tries to just like he's the positive voice that I sometimes need.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, having him as a partner has been awesome. I couldn't ask for any other partner that would be better.
That is freaking awesome, dude. That is really awesome. So, another thing I wanted to ask you was, is there a specific song that really, really gets you pumped up whenever you're like working out?
A specific song, not really. I listen to like a lot of music. I'm a big hip hop head. I love like 90s rap. I love current rap. I love like all types of rap, hip hop. But I also listen to like metal, rock, like R&B. Like my music is kind of all spread out, so it just depends how I'm feeling that day. Some days, like today at the gym, I listened to a lot of 90s rap, like a 90s rap playlist, and that was what I was feeling today. Sometimes I feel like the heavy metal. Sometimes I feel like a podcast or no music. Like it just really depends. But so some people that really get me hyped. I listen to a lot of Mac Miller. Mac Miller was my favorite artist. He's passed away now, but I still listen to him all the time. Kendrick Lamar. Um, yeah, just a lot of Nas, a lot of rap, a lot of metal. Just whatever I'm feeling that day.
That is really cool. So, what is one thing that maybe you had learned about professional wrestling that you weren't expecting to learn when you had dived into professional wrestling?
Hmm, it's a good question. Was something that I learned that I didn't know. I guess I don't know. That's a really good question. I think there's a lot of things that a lot of preconceived notions that I had of wrestling that have kind of changed since I've kind of learned more about the business. But I don't know, man. That's a tough question. That's, there's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's all good, man. It's all good. So before we actually cut everything out, and I apologize that it's so short. I just have to go and get my son from the bus stop. But I do want to ask you before we actually close everything out, like just what professional wrestling means to you, and actually being able to do it and sorting it out before actually accomplishing it.
It right now it means everything to me. It's basically like my purpose in life right now. Like growing up, like I won't get too deep into it, but I've had like a lot of failure in life. Like I played my before wrestling, my number one love in life was basketball. I played basketball for years and years and years. I put my whole life into it, and a lot of times it just like it didn't love me back. Um, so I've had a lot of I've I used I don't want to make this pity party. I used to get bullied a lot as a child. I had a lot of problems that I kind of had to overcome. And wrestling has just really given me like a purpose in life. Like before wrestling, I had nothing going for me. I lived in Oregon, that was cool, but like I was working a terrible job, wasn't making much money. I was depressed. I was, drinking, smoking. Like I was living my life in a way that I really didn't like. And wrestling has really kind of reset my brain a little bit and refocused everything, just because like I all of my time now I put into wrestling pretty much, and I love it. Like I love having. I've always wanted just like that thing. Like everyone has like a thing. I just wanted that thing that I could really sink my teeth into and put all my energy and all my time into. Um, and my love for wrestling, it just helps that. So it's really given me a chance to make something of my life, and it's given me a chance to kind of find myself in a way. I've discovered a lot about myself through wrestling. Yeah, it's been the most incredible like experience of my life, just like everything that's happened, and I'm excited for the future. I don't know what the future is gonna hold, but I'm gonna keep working for it. I'm gonna get there, and yeah, I'm just keep trying to stay on the steady path.
Well, that is freaking awesome, man. And I just want to thank you again, man, for actually allowing me to sit down with you and go through a bunch of questions and just know who you are as Hotshot Spencer Scott.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me. This has been a really fun time.
All right, man. Well, I hope you have a good night, and I'll catch you later.
All right, thank you.
All right. Well, all right, you guys. So that was Interesting's podcast interview with Hotshot Spencer Scott. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And remember, June 9th, I will actually be interviewing Chris Brady. This is going to be another awesome interview. You guys are not going to want to miss. So make sure you guys ring that notification bell so you guys get notified when we go live. I'll catch you guys later.